Guys, what is up? Big Reviews here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about Wonder Man, the new Disney Plus TV show from Marvel Studios. And it is 3 a.m. in the morning, and as you know on this channel, if I'm making a video late at night, that means that I cannot wait till the next day to record. I have to do it right after I watch it because it hit me that hard, and I need to just talk about it. So Wonder Man actually didn't have a lot of marketing leading up to it. It actually was filmed about 2 years ago, and then we had some of the writers' strikes, and they had some stuff happen that I guess they pushed it back all this time, and they even thought about at one point not releasing it or using it for taxes or something like that, one of the directors said. Speaking of director, the director and like the show creator and runner is Daniel Cretton. I forgot his last name. I think Cretton's his middle name. He did Shang-Chi, and he did this show, and he's doing the next Spider-Man movie. And if this is the quality of stuff he puts out, I cannot wait to see what he does next. Shang-Chi is one of the most underrated Marvel films. I think a lot of people are coming around on it now because it came out in the time. It's kind of like when Solo came out for Star Wars, and it was like right after Episode 8, and everyone's like, you know, but it's actually a good movie. It's like that. This follows Simon Williams, and he is an actor inside the MCU, and he has powers, and in the MCU, you're not allowed to be an actor and have superpowers. They do mention that you can, but like with the amount of paperwork and money I think it would be to even get like the license to be able to is just too much. And what's really cool about the show is now we're really starting this subplot in the MCU. As you know, you have the movies, which are the big plots, right? That's the Doom, that's all this. And then the TV shows, you have like, you know, Daredevil versus Fisk and all these lower, obviously Fisk is a big deal, but in the span of the MCU, like it's like street level crime. And this connects to the MCU, but it's its own thing. And what's great about this show is that there's like one action scene in the whole show, and it's literally an alleyway fight, and he beats up 3 people, okay? And it's just so crazy how engaging this is because Simon Williams feels so real. Trevor Slattery, he is great in this show. His arc from, we'll get into spoilers a little bit, but obviously we know he was the fake Mandarin, and we know through Shang-Chi, you know, he was an actor, and this show really shows him in a tough situation because we do meet the Department of Damage Control, which we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home, we saw in Ms. Marvel, and I think that's it. But the same guy who's like the head, like one of the heads of it, is appearing in all of them. And basically, as we know with this group, is that they basically are looking for superpowered individuals that either like aren't registered or might be like a threat, and that's all we really know. And it's cool to see them keep popping up because this is like a lower level threat. This like a lot of the TV show like heroes who Marvel shows off who might not necessarily be an Avengers level, like Simon Williams, even though I think he should be on the Avengers. He is powerful as shit. Actually, if he is on the Avengers, I'm sorry, I don't know him from the comics, but like them, this is like their Thanos almost. Like these guys just are there at every corner. They're really cracking down on them, and it was really interesting to see that. And at the heart of this whole show is the bromance between Trevor Slattery and Simon Williams. It is a beautiful relationship, and right off the bat, we just start learning all about these characters, and they just seem so layered and natural. Simon loves film, and if you love cinema like me, there's a lot of scenes and a lot of quotes in this show that really do hit you. One of my favorites, 2 of my favorites that I will mention, is in episode 1, near the beginning, when he first meets Trevor in the movie theater. And Trevor's like, as you know, Trevor Slattery, he's like, he's always cracking jokes. He's never really too serious. And once the movie's, and he's on the phone, and Simon's like, hey, can you please be quiet? And Trevor says, oh, once the movie starts, I don't talk, trust me. And the movie starts, and sure enough, the camera shows them, and they're just so they're so engrossed in the picture, and you see a look on Trevor's face of just admiration for film. Same with Simon. And as you learn Simon's backstory about how his dad took him to the original Wonder Man movie and showed him movies instead of going to school where he was getting bullied, it just has that really soft connection, especially someone like me, and I'm sure a lot of you who do love film and use cinema and film to get away from real life. That really hits hard. So we see this beautiful friendship because Trevor Slattery, as we know, did play a terrorist. He did play the Mandarin, and as you know, he did get broken out of jail by the 10 Rings, so he never technically finished his jail sentence. As you know, in Shang-Chi, he was in there, and he left. And so now the Department of Damage Control arrests him right when he gets to LA, and they're basically like, you either go to jail, or you can spy on Simon Williams for us, because we think he's a high-level threat. And so their relationship's built on a sham already, because Trevor's there for information, right? You learn that in like the 2nd or 3rd episode. But as the episodes go on, you easily can tell that Simon is a good dude. He has his problems, but he is a good dude, and you can see this taking effect on Trevor. And very early on, I'm so glad they didn't make it wait so long for Trevor to like kind of turn against the DODC. But you hear like he's trying to get info on Simon. All he hears about is how Simon didn't really have many friends, and he's at his house and his own brother's talking crap about him, and anybody he's trying to find information from just talks crap about Simon or talks about his brother. You see that really resonates with Trevor. And the beauty of this bromance as well is Trevor is someone who really deeply loves acting, and he screwed up a lot of his life with drugs and all this stuff, and he really truly loves film and he loves acting, and I think he gets to live that again through Simon and help Simon. So the main plot of this movie, it's called Wonder Man because, like I said, Simon and his dad saw the original Wonder Man when he was a kid, and now they're remaking Wonder Man. And Simon's like, I have to have this role. Trevor's like, and Trevor's there. So then it's already a coincidence, and this is before you kind of figure out that Trevor's working for the DODC, but we find out that Trevor went there, but Trevor actually loves acting, and sure enough, they get callbacks throughout the show, and they just really think this is a shot, and Trevor is just, you could tell he's falling more and more in love with film and his friendship with Simon, and he starts to betray the DODC. And his character arc, I'm not giving it justice, it is a great character arc. Now, there is not a lot of action in this show, like I said, and some people who have TikTok brain may not like it, but even for me, like, and I don't mind slow shows like Better Call Saul or anything like that, or even like Pluribus. I don't think this was bad. Like it was so entertaining. Just Simon felt so real, and seeing this side of the MCU where simple things like Simon's a superhero, and just learning how like the MCU's Hollywood works. There's a really great episode 4 called Doorman, and Doorman's mentioned earlier in the show because it's called the Doorman Clause, and this is what basically went into effect of superheroes not being allowed in the Hollywood industry. And it's basically a whole flashback episode about this guy named Doorman who touches some goo, and he's basically able to like transport people through him. He opens his jacket, he's like, jump through me. And there's a really funny bit with Josh Gad. I won't get too into it or spoil it because it is funny, but and seeing him spiral after his 15 minutes of fame. And it's crazy how they're touching on serious topics like that I'm sure actors go through, where, you know, even people who have, you know, a viral TikTok, right? You're going to have 15 minutes of fame, and once it's up, if you don't keep it rolling somehow, then it's over, and people will start turning on that idea. And I think they portray that beautifully, especially Marvel knows what their fans say about them, and especially if you're on like the Twitter side of like the film side of Twitter, like I am, people will switch up on a movie no matter what. I remember No Way Home came out, everyone was praising it, and there was people like, watch in 3 years, people are going to be somehow turn and start shitting on it. Obviously, the majority population likes it, but people who are online a lot talking about film, I don't know, they're just so like sad. I don't know. Everything Everywhere All at Once, I will again defend that film to the day I die on this channel. Second favorite movie of all time, Back to the Future. That movie was critically acclaimed, and now people are calling it the worst Oscar win in the past 10 years. Ridiculous. Okay, and they really capture that perfectly. How Doorman has this saying called "ding dong," and everyone's laughing and loving it, but once his fame starts like eroding a little bit, everyone keeps calling it cringe and all this stuff. And anyways, we can talk about that episode for an hour, but they don't really delve into his powers. You really don't learn what his powers are till the end, and we still don't know exactly the extent of what he can do. I think he's a mutant, personally, because it is very heavily implied, and now we're going to be talking about some spoilers. Like, I've kind of, like, given you the gist, but we're going to talk about some major spoilers here. It's basically implied that his parents know, because his mom says he's different, and his dad picks him up from school and says he's different. Now, obviously, that can be like, oh, you know, you're different from the other kids, you're not like a jock or anything. But I do think his parents knew. This show is great because at the end of the day, there's really two things happening. It's Simon and Trevor trying to get the job for Wonder Man, and the shenanigans that kind of lead up to that, like doing, like, there's a whole episode about doing a audition tape and them going all the way around LA and stuff. And the other side of this is Trevor working for the DODC and basically turning on Simon, but really fighting against the DODC because he sees that Simon is a vulnerable, nice guy, and he doesn't think that he should go to prison. And this really culminates in episode 7 and 8, where Simon basically finally finds out that Trevor has been doing this behind his back, and Simon says a gut-wrenching line to him. He says, "What a performance, man." Because the whole show, Trevor and all of them have been like riffing off each other and talking about, you know, how to dig deep in for a real performance, and we see in the first few minutes of the first episode that Simon is really this perfectionist, because in the first episode he's literally playing a guy on American Horror Story who has 2 lines and dies, and he keeps calling the writer and the director over because he thinks there's this whole backstory he made up, and they end up firing him on the spot. And so we see him like this, and Trevor's, the whole show's talking about how, like, you can tell he misses all this and stuff. So when Simon gets stressed, he basically unleashes all this power, and stuff starts trembling. I love the build up throughout the show of this, where in like the first episode or 2, you see it for the first time and just everything starts shaking a little bit. And then the second time, a little explosion happens. And by the time we get to the big part of the show, which is episode 7, where after he finds out Trevor betrayed him, he blows up this whole soundstage in Hollywood and basically goes back to his apartment, and that's where the episode ends. And then the finale literally starts with him like, this is it, I'm done, Wonder Man's canceled. And we find out that Trevor calls him, and we think the cops are going to Simon, and Trevor calls Simon. He's like, you know, I figured it out. I've messed many chances up, but this is yours, and live it. And we find out that Trevor brings his Mandarin persona back, and he says that he was the one who blew up the soundstage, and it was all a test, blah, blah. And he basically puts all the blame on him, and he goes to prison. And it's just so crazy how they take this character from Iron Man 3 who was hated and was played as a joke in the movie. I like the twist. I've talked about this on the channel before, but once you find out that he's like a fake Mandarin, or he's like, you know, an actor, he's a joke the rest of the movie. And even in Shang-Chi, he was a bit of a joke. And in this show, he is still funny, and he's like a joke a little bit, but he's just taken so seriously, and he has some of the best lines in the show. He talks to one of these actors one time, and he's like, acting is the most important thing you can do in life. And and the way Ben Kingsley executes that line is beautiful, because you could tell the passion he has for film. And he talks about his mom all the time in the show, and shows old pictures of him and his mom, and talks about how, like, his mom always believed in him and stuff. And same thing with Simon with his dad, and their bromance is just great. And the show ends with Simon Simon with Wonder Man coming out finally. He's this big movie star, and then he goes and busts Trevor out of jail because he just can't live with that, and he knows Trevor meant well, and I hope we see their bromance more. Ben Kingsley's 82, so I really hope we can get some more stuff. And it's going to be interesting. Now, obviously, like, they left it off on a good note because they wrapped up a lot of loose ties in the show, but there are a lot of things we still don't know. Like, is Simon going to be outed? Because there's still not enough information. Like they have a huge lead on him, but him doing this is huge because they could easily blow the lid on him, and he'll never work in Hollywood again. And they can even do it where, I think in real life, if something like this happened, like, yeah, Hollywood wouldn't work with him, but I think a lot of people would support him. We don't know where the current mentality of the MCU, like, population is when it comes to superheroes. Like, we don't know. I think most people like them, but obviously once we get into the mutants, as you know, with mutants, like, people are just racist towards you if you're a mutant. Like, people who don't know, like, if I'm Steve Rogers and I save a baby from a burning building, they're gonna be like, oh, you're great. If I'm like Wolverine, or if I'm like, you know, Professor X who was born with the gene, they're gonna be racist as shit to you because they just view you as, I don't know, that's one thing in the comics that it's so important to X-Men lore, but it just always pissed me off because it just makes no sense. But I do think a lot of people in the MCU would praise Simon and still support him if they liked Wonder Man just because he's a superhero. But that's gonna be very interesting going forward. And again, their connection and how that grows, and I just really hope to see more Wonder Man. It's that simple. I mean, I love this character so much. We haven't really seen him in action, like, at all. And I kind of like that because we know he's very powerful. From what I looked up as well, he's one of the more powerful Marvel characters. And I just love that because this show's so damn good. And we like I said, we only get one fight scene. And it's so good. It's insane. Like, please go watch Wonder Man, guys. This show deserves the best. I don't think they properly showed this show off, in my opinion. I really don't think they did. They started advertising it a few weeks out, but like a lot of people didn't even realize that this movie came out, or the show came out. But go watch it. It's great. It's only 8 episodes, 30-minute episodes, but it is a great character piece on Simon Williams and on Trevor Slattery, and their bromance makes this whole show, and it's one of the better connections in recent Marvel, and I really hope we see more of them. But guys, let me know what you guys think down below. Did you like Wonder Man? If not, let me know. If so, let me know. As always, it's been Joey. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.